Hello guys and welcome to patch recap 5.14. If you guys are new to patch recap, I basically review the patch and then the plan is this goes up on YouTube when they're actually patching the game, so you guys can go and get reminded of what the patch was. I'm gonna try and do it short and I'll try and give my professional opinion on the changes as well, how I think it will affect them, how I think it might, like if I think it's good or bad or whatever. I want to apologize for not doing one for 5.13. However, I was in Katowice in Poland and then in America, so I really didn't have the time to actually get it out for you guys as I was at the LAN. So that's it, but we're back, we're doing 5.14. Let's get straight into it. Little new thing this time, we added a little leaf, or well, of course Blues Ultra did. That means it's a quality of life, a QOL change if they have the little leaf rather than, so it's like a buff but it's for quality of life, right? Pretty much. And thank you Blues Ultra once again for providing us with this awesome infographics. Follow all his social media right there somewhere on his Reddit, Instagram and so on. He's really awesome. He's providing us with this super cool infographics that we can use, so thanks to you again. Let's jump into it. Bagasura, first change, they just increased this camera height from 42 to 64. So what they wanted to do with all these increased camera heights, Tyrus, is that before, like it basically some guards were like better because you could kind of look over walls, and they wanted to create a minimum so guards didn't feel very different to play and like looking over walls and looking around stuff. So they made a new minimum. So every guard now has a minimum camera height of 64. However, some camera heights might be higher. A guard like Zeus, who has the highest camera height in the game, is still higher. But at least there's a bare minimum now. And that also applies to Scylla, who also got this increased camera height from 36 to 64. So it's a bit of a buff, but it's quality of life just to make the game more, I don't know, streamlined, I guess, in like terms of camera heights. And they already did a bit of this in 5.13, quite a bit, and now they're adding Bagasura and Scylla to the mix, so I like that. Pretty good changes. Skadi also got a buff this patch. Now Skadi has been out of the meta for a while in my opinion, so they decreased the damage taken to regenerate 1 hit point from 10 seconds to 7 seconds on Calder. And then they decreased the cooldown of Piercing Cold, which is a first ability, from 15 to 14 seconds. So this, in my opinion, looks more as like making Skadi a bit of a better early game guard, which is what she kind of shines us already, right? Because you're making the dog generate faster, which is kind of almost only relevant early mid game in my opinion. And then you're decreasing the cooldown so you can get a bit more consistent poke off. I know a lot of hunters have this 15-second cooldown on their like damage ability, Apollo 1, Impale, and so on. So this might give her a bit of an edge. So I think this is a good change to Skadi. We haven't seen her for a while, so I mean, I like it. Morrigan, they increased the minion bonus damage from 20, 35, 50, 65 to 80, and now it's 40 to 160. So her 2 now does even more bonus damage to minions, so you can clear the wave a bit easier. This means Morrigan is going to start one-shotting archers now with her 2. So before it was 20 to 80, now it's 40 to 160. So it's like 20 increase on the 1, and then it's just 10 increase per level, so it ends up actually doing 80 damage more, which is quite significant. Now she doesn't need to basic attack the way she can just do it. Vamana also got the quality of life update. He also got increased camera height. And then Vulcan, he got buffed. His backfire now goes through walls. That's really good for Vulcan. That means I think that's gonna make him perform a lot better against certain guards, because you don't like Fawn and Ymir, like good picks into a guard like Vulcan. Sure, they're not paid that much anymore, but historically people play these guards into Vulcan. And the Inferno Cannon now deals damage as if the target had 25% less magic protection. So now the cannon actually has 25 flat percentage pen on it, which is really good. This is gonna make Vulcan better. Yeah, I think again this is just more quality of life changes rather than buffs, but it's like pretty damn good for him. Moving on, we're gonna go to the nerfs. There's not a lot of like item changes since 5.13 was such a giant patch, but as we all know, all the masks got introduced, and Lona's mask is actually getting another nerf. I'm not very happy about this one. They added a new sacrifice stat to the passive. That means you do 20% less healing And the reason why I wasn't happy with this, because Lorna seemed like this item you could pick up on healing supports. And I'm a big Hell fan. And I thought Hell was going to be meta again now with Lorna's Mask. But it seems Hi-Rez don't want to go into that. Obviously, Hell is actually doing really well in the stats. But she's just not viable and competitive right now. So Lorna's Mask would have made her viable, but I don't think she's going to be that good anymore. This also goes for a god like Nasha that did really well with Lorna's Mask in the support role as well. So it kind of creates a bit less diversity in my opinion, at least for the support role, which is where you usually see people pick up Lorna's Mask, which I really, really dislike. And I think this is a bad change. I think it might be a bit too good, but I think 20% healing done is really good. And then you can say, but doesn't Hell's passive stance kind of like cleanse that or whatever, because that's plus 20%? Sure, but you're still doing 20% less healing overall, which really hurts a character like Hell that's just based around healing. So a bit sad on my part, but I mean, let's see how it plays out, see if you can still pull off Hell. A few characters got some tweaks. Let's start with the item real fast first. We have Atlantis Bow. They added 10% movement speed to the item. So it has 10% movement speed flat now, but they nerfed the passive a lot. They decreased the stacks from 4 to 3, and they decreased the movement speed per stack from 7 to 5. So before you would get 28% movement speed, now you're only getting 15, but you have 10 flat. So you're losing 3% movement speed if you had max stacks, but in my opinion this is a buff, because most of the time you'd rather want that 10% movement speed. Like let's say you're running away from someone, you can actually utilize it because you're not going to be hitting someone if you're trying to run away from them. So a bit of a buff in my opinion to Atlantis Bow. Let's see if it's going to be good or not. Also, they did a lot of bug fixes this patch. I'm not going to go all of those. We'll link the patch notes as always, but there's just a lot of really nice updates. It seems that Hi-Rez is finally cleaning up in a lot of these bugs and like description, tooltips, issues that there's been. So I'm really happy about that. Achilles got tweaked as well. Basically the health bonus increased from 30 to 10 per level to, now it's 25 to 15 per level, and the protection bonus was before 5 to 1 and now it's 5 to 1.5 per level. So that means his other stance rather than his damage stance, like his defense stance, is going to be a bit better, quite a bit better late game. And I think this is alright because you'd almost always be in his offensive stance, his no armor stance. It's definitely going to make him feel more tanky and less damagey, and I think that's what they wanted to do with Achilles, because he could be hitting you for like 200 or something with his 2, and now he's going to be slightly more focused on the defense. Radiant Glory, they also did physical power and protections now scale from 15%, before the 15%, now it's 10 to 20%, so his 2 gets a bit stronger, and then combat dodge, his dash. Now they changed the cooldown. Before it was 12 at all seconds, now it goes from 14 to 10. However, the damage is decreased by 5 per level, which means before it went from 55 to 215, now it's 50 to 210. So overall, this is a bit of a more late game buff to Achilles that makes him slightly more tanky, slightly less damagey, but it also gives him more mobility, and yeah, that's pretty much it for Achilles. I think this is a bit unnecessary. I think Achilles is good. I think this works out as a buff for Achilles because his early game is still going to be very much relevant. So I don't really like it. I don't think there was a reason for this. If they didn't really go all the way through with it, like you can still kind of build him damagey and still get a lot of defense out of it. So yeah, I don't know. Freya got tweaked as well. They decreased the magical power scaling on Northern Lights, her 1, from 60 to 50. But they also decreased the mana cost per shot from 25, before it was 25 to 57, and now it's 20 to 40. She takes less mana, but does less damage. Actually, I haven't gotten a chance even to play Freya yet, but I've played against her and she seems really strong. So I'm glad they're decreasing the scaling a bit. She also seems to be running out of mana very, very fast. So I guess I'm glad that they are decreasing the mana cost as well. I think Freya might need nerfs though. But that's pretty much it for the gods and everything like that. Now we got another big thing, because we got a new god. We got Pele. So let's start talking about Pele. Obviously Pele is going to be the goddess of volcanoes. I think she's a Polynesian god. Yeah, the new pantheon. So Her passive is going to be Everlasting Flame. When Pelle drops with below 50% health, her flame is set alight and she gains increased physical power, lifesteal, and ability lifesteal. This passive has a 20-second cooldown. Power 5+2 per level, and then she has 40% lifesteal, 20% ability lifesteal. The cooldown is 20 seconds and the duration is 6 seconds, so it's like a self-steroid that kind of procs, and this makes her super strong in like 1v1 scenarios, because getting this proc with 40% lifesteal is really going to help you. Pyroclast is Pelle's first ability. Pelle has 2 charges of this ability. Let's just read it out. Pelle flourishes and fires out a magma orb ahead of her in a line. Once the fiery projectile reaches maximum distance, it hovers for a brief instant, solidifies, and then returns back in pieces, dealing damage to enemies on the way back. The number of shards returning is dependent on the rank of this ability, so it's kind of like a Vamana umbrella thing. Pelle has 2 charges of this ability. It does 60 to 220 plus 60% of physical power. Return damage is 20 plus 15% of physical power per shard. The range is 60, cooldown 14 seconds, so it's a bit longer than a basic attack. 14 seconds cooldown. The mana cost is really low, it's 40 to 60. So this is going to be her main clearing tool in the jungle. Since she is an assassin, we want to mention that as well. Eruption. This is a really cool ability. That's Pelle's second ability. When I saw this, I was like, that's pretty sick. Pelle fiercely erupts energy into the ground, exploding in an area around her, causing damage and knock-ups to all enemies. At ranks 3 and 5, the area expands again at a delay, dealing less damage and a smaller knock-up. So it has 3 exploding cycles. You have the inner damage, which does 85 to 265 plus 80% of physical power. Then the outer damage does 80 to 240% of physical power. The knock-up is 280, 240 to 200. The radius is 15, 25, 35. Cooldown 15 seconds. Mana cost 60 to 80. Then you have her third ability, which is this like super cool movement speed, fuel kind of thing. Pelle starts to churn the land around her, dealing damage to nearby enemies and giving her constant movement speed while this ability is active. Toggle this ability again to enter an amplified state, expending more fuel but dealing more damage and providing additional movement speed. This ability has no cooldown but uses a fuel gauge and cannot be activated when below 10 fuel. So she kind of gains fuel over time, and then you can get to like choose when to use it. So you get more movement speed, right? And you do damage. So it's like a mystical mail around you, but it just takes way up more often. So the damage is 10 to 30 every 0.5 seconds, 10% of your physical power. The amplified damage goes from 20 to 80 plus 20% of your physical power. That's if you click it twice and you go into this, what did they call it, amplified state. The movement speed is 20 in the amplified stage. It's 60%. The initial fuel cost is 5. The mana cost is 10 and the cooldown is 0 seconds. So you can kind of toggle between this all you want, but the fuel is not gonna last forever. Pelle's ultimate is called Volcanic Lightning. After a short warm-up, Pelle dashes forward, dealing massive damage and a slow to the first enemy guard hit, and dealing additional damage to the enemies behind in a cone. For the next 10 seconds of 3 attacks, every time Pelle hits an enemy with a basic attack, additional damage is dealt behind the enemy as well. The damage is 200 to 520, the extra damage is 100 to 260, the range is 60, the slow is 20 to 40%, slow duration 3 seconds, cooldown 90 seconds, mana cost 100. So it's like this Achilles ult she fires, and if she hits someone, she gets this cone, right? And you punch that guy and it does like damage, like basic attack damage, or well, the extra damage, whatever you want to say it, in a cone. So if you're in a grouped up team fight and you like hit the support with your ult, but then you like hit him 3 times, you're gonna be doing a lot of damage. The cone is like a gap 2, right? And you're just hitting the guy you hit with your ult, and it's like damaging in a cone. It's really, really strong, it seems. Yeah, gonna quickly go over and mention the new cosmetics. They got a Polynesian loading frame, Polynesian music theme, cute Pelle avatar, Primal Storm Fountain Fix, new announcer pack, Primal Storm announcer pack, new emote, Pelle clap, Pelle wave, and then they have some new additions to the awesome chest, Electric Dream Nox, Chompy Chippy Fenrir, and to the Fantasy Point store, the new additions are Beamy Chippy Ra, BCB Cupid, and Scarlet Coven Isis. And that's it. That's a wrap for this patch recap 5.14. Please let me know if there's anything I could improve on. Please let me know what you think about this patch in general. I hope you guys enjoyed this episode. If you did, make sure to give a like, comment, subscribe, and press the bell. Until next time, everyone. Peace out.